Hey, for the love of God, let me save!
They would rather let you die.
Oh my god. They said, yeah, there's no save points for the rest of the game. Tee.
I was last able to save at minute 4. I started this recording 36 minutes ago. It's been half an hour. I have food downstairs.
You'll never get to a save point if you don't keep clicking, boy.
Just playing an instrument fun. Who are you, people?
Hiya, I'm a Zamen, and you're probably wondering how I got into this situation. So let's talk about Your Turn to Die, Chapter 2, Part 1. In a few words, Your Turn to Die is a death game visual novel along the lines of The Great Danganronpa, just minus all that hope and despair biz. This game has an engaging plot, fun puzzles, and debates that I can compare to Ace Attorney. If any of that interests you, go and play it. But if you want to hear about it and don't feel like watching the prior episode, then let's dive right into Chapter 2. However, if you do need a quick refresher, this is our protag, Sarah Chidoan. She was kidnapped alongside 9 other people to participate in a death game. The exact purpose of that death game has yet to be revealed. At the end of the prior chapter, Joe Tazuna, Sarah's best friend, expired. An event so traumatic, I got to witness it twice, because it turns out when I beat Chapter 1, I did not save. Meaning at the start of this session, I had to speed through the first chapter with very, and I mean very high levels of investment. Wait, we have to, fight, whatever, oh no, oh, Joe, oh no, I'm trying so hard, oh, I can't do anything, oh no.
As it's in your hand. Oh no, the button's so hard.
But once that's over, I can begin Chapter 2 proper, and I'm met with a flashback of Kai, a young man who also expired at the end of the last chapter, but by his own hand in an act of defiance against the captors that brought us to this death game. The flashback is about Kai talking to the father of Sarah. Apparently Kai was hired or raised to be Sarah's secret guardian angel, meant to always watch over and protect her at the behest of Sarah's father. A very overprotective father who quickly lashes out when Kai shows affection towards Sarah. Even still, it's unsettling, because Sarah was under the impression that Kai was her stalker. So his presence being caused by Sarah's father is unnerving to say the least. The scene then cuts to a happy memory of Sarah hanging out with her deceased friend Joe, but it quickly sours as Joe questions Sarah for why she let him suffer for so long, for making his end so painful and excruciating. And that jolts Sarah awake, but her nightmare is far from over. As she starts hearing Joe again, the bed she slept on is now covered in blood, and in a reflection of a mirror, she can see Joe staring back at her. The room deteriorates further, blood pools from the ceiling, the remains of the deceased Kai and Professor Mishima also appear. Sarah tries to run out of the room, but finds herself restrained and choked by Joe. As her consciousness fades, she awakens for the first time. For real. Keiji, the policeman, is here, and in him, Sarah confides, explaining what she just saw, and to that, Keiji gives Sarah a grim piece of advice, telling her that once the hallucinations are burned into her head, the only thing she can do is not acknowledge them. Otherwise, she'll end up like him. But I doubt Sarah heard that last part as she dozed off. Once Sarah awakens for like the 3rd time, Keiji explains that in the time since the prior chapter, the whole group has moved on to the 3rd floor of the Death Games complex. This massive building that's just devoid of any connection to the outside world. No internet, no phones, no windows, only walls. Yet, the faintest glimmer of escape still exists in the minds of everyone, which is why the rest of the cast is now off exploring the new floor for anything that might help them accomplish that goal. And Sarah resolves to catch up with the others and join them. Meaning, it's time to start exploring. Also, you can probably see that little red Joe in the corner. That is Sarah's hallucination level. Currently, it's at 20%, and it'll increase every time I interact with the hallucinations. They'll become more apparent as we go further into this chapter. Once outside, Sarah's return is met with a great fanfare by now the redhead, Reiko the singer, and Gin the small child. We also get to see that Sarah's looking a little rough. Those three inform Sarah that Smiley, the robot doll girl, vanished after the prior chapter. They just can't find her. So I'll keep an eye out. From there, I have a few locations I can visit, starting with the Ruined Corridor where I find Mr. Kyutaro, who, after rewatching Stardust Crusaders, is an even bigger JoJo reference than I previously thought. Because his name, well, because that's the alias Jotaro uses to trick Enya, and also tells me that maybe Kyutaro is an alias. But aside from him, there's really nothing here, so to the monitor room I go, where I make a very unnerving discovery. Professor Mishima is here, sort of. As a reminder, Professor Mishima was the first person to expire in the death game, being killed off during the test game, where he accrued the most votes in an act of sacrifice to ensure that no one else would be hurt. But it's not really him. No, it's an AI chatbot of him. A perfect one-to-one recreation of Professor Mishima, and he's not the only one. In fact, all the monitors you see are a different person. There's even one of Joe Tazuna. However, things take a turn for the macabre when it becomes apparent that the AI professor doesn't know that his real-life copy is dead. Bit of a logic error there. Then in seeing the potential of this, Sarah decides to start searching for a way to turn on the AI of Joe. But before she can commit some serious mental damage, she is stopped by the appearance of a green-haired crying lady on the big screens, who wants to know who turned on the AI chatbots. Though her pleas are unanswered as yet another character makes their debut. This upstanding orange gentleman is my dress-up darling, I mean the dress-up doll, Rio Ranger, whose purpose is to support us trappies on this floor. While the green lady is the vice floor master, Tia Safalin. Both of them are robots like Smiley from the last floor, and by default that makes them our enemies. Though even before they introduced themselves, Rio was clearly a despicable entity, as Sarah realizes something strange about him. He's wearing Professor Mishima's necktie, Kai's apron, and Joe's hair clip. Kana, the middle schooler, even realizes that Rio is wearing her sister's skirt. From head to toe, Rio is dressed in the relics of the deceased. A constant reminder of everyone's loss, to which everyone is equally at a loss for words, allowing Rio to laugh it off and lead us into the next room where he explains the gimmick of this floor: prizes, tokens, and secrets. To begin, everyone is handed 100 Me tokens, tokens that represent themselves and that they are encouraged to trade, as by trading they'll be able to purchase any number of incredible prizes. The prizes are secrets about the other contestants or secrets about this floor, and you can only purchase prizes by using someone else's Me tokens. As Rio Ranger puts it, you are buying and selling trust. After all, contracts don't exist, and if you want secrets of the floor and others, then you'll have to sell your personal data. But if you don't want to risk losing your personal data to info brokers, then worry not, because with today's sponsor, NordVPN. Beyond just the information brokering, this floor is also scattered with 9 attractions, basically co-op games that require a partner. Clearing an attraction awards a certain number of clear chips based on the attraction's difficulty. Everyone needs at least 10 chips to participate in the upcoming main game. Otherwise, they'll be dead before the game starts. Naturally, everyone is panicked, but it's made worse when Rio reveals the ultimate Me tokens prize. If someone is able to amass a large collection of tokens, they'll be able to go straight to the surface and escape this death game. Everyone has 3 days to collect the clear chips and trade the Me tokens. That's the deadline. And with that, Rio and Safalin take their leave, beginning day 1, morning, proper. From here on out, there's a day and night cycle where Sarah can only perform a certain amount of actions before time will progress, namely story events and 1 to 2 attractions per time period, morning, afternoon, and night. Leaving the prize corner to go and find these attractions, I see that Now is talking to Mishima's AI chatbot, and it does not look very healthy. But I, along with Sarah, really don't know what we could possibly say to... Wait, this other monitor is broken. Reiko, Keiji, and Sarah investigate, but there's no clues as to who did it, and the photos on the back of the monitor have already been taken, meaning we don't even know which monitor is which person anymore. Everyone was in the prize corner, so now chimes in that she hasn't seen So all day, meaning that he's likely the suspect. I'm then given a choice by Keiji, either look for So or look for the attractions. Immediately I choose to look for So. He's too dangerous, and after the prior chapter where this happened,
Devolving into a cackling fiend who mimics the aura of Sand's Undertale.
after that, I am absolutely dying to find out more about him. So it's decided that everyone will follow Sarah's lead and look for So together. I think that's what happened. The footage in this area got corrupted, and I recorded this footage like 10 months ago, probably 12 months when this video gets released. No, 11. It'll be before August. Anyway, Sarah sets out and ends up stumbling across So's hat in a ruined corridor. From the looks of it, he's somehow entered an attraction all by himself, but there's 3 around here, so Sarah can only pick and choose. Each attraction is a unique minigame, and each attraction needs a partner who gives a unique ability to support Sarah. For the first game I selected, Card Battle, it's exactly what it sounds like, and I chose Kyutaro as my partner, because he can greatly increase my attack power, which seemed helpful in a card battler, bringing me to an intense game of strategy. Rock, paper, scissors. Sort of. 4 possible courses of action. Charging builds up energy, beam attacks the enemy with 1 energy, blocking nullifies an incoming attack, and special is basically an ultimate that requires 3 energy. It's a game about chance and playing cautiously, because you can easily read what the enemy will do, but it's never certain. Additionally, if both sides attack at the same time, then it cancels out and no damage is dealt. You also have to pick 3 actions to do in order and then clash until a winner is picked. I decided to focus on hyper offense, charging and spamming single beams, because single beams also function as a defense. I never really found the ultimate attack to be really worth it, because the loss of 3 energy was just way too great. Like, it would take way too long, and that would be better spent on just 3 attacks with at least 1 hitting. Following my victory, Kyutaro did literally nothing, besides telling me we're fighting an alien. I am rewarded with 1 clear chip, while Kyutaro got his own. As the 2 of us leave, Reiko is instantly in our face. She found So in his bedroom, and we quickly rush over. But inside his room, So is indisposed, having apparently been knocked unconscious by a swing of a conveniently placed plank of wood. He's even got splinters in the back of his head. As everyone gawks, So begins to stir and rises to his feet, resulting in the following scene. What do you mean? It's over? All of it? Who died? Huh? So? What is So talking about? Who isn't here? Now? Or else was it Kai? Stop it already. It can't be. Joe? Stop. Miss Sarah, that can't be right. Joe died? Why? Stop. At that, Sarah suffered a manic episode and briefly lost consciousness, awakening later in the common room surrounded by Keiji, Reiko, and Kyutaro. Apparently So lost his memory and everyone is beyond pissed. Plus, no one believes So's story about losing his memory. Yet it means we really can't accomplish much. Because no matter what, So will be dodging our questions. Yet amidst everyone's frustrations, Kana speaks up and requests that she be allowed to handle So. To basically be with him 24/7 to keep an eye on him and make him slip up eventually. Reiko's against the idea because Kana's already been used by him. But Keiji says, hold up, let her cook. Arguing that we've been underestimating Kana and she deserves a little more respect, though cautioning Kana to be careful, because adults with bad intentions are rightfully scary. And we send Kana off on her way, leaving the rest of us to begin negotiations. Basically, pick a character, and chat with them and decide if I want to accept a Me Tokens trade. Unfortunately, for this first round, I accepted to trade with Gin before seeing what Alice or Keiji were offering. But this may have been for the best, as Gin is not offering a trade. He's just handing out his me tokens and offers to give Sarah 10 for free, which is not smart, and I, in good conscience, can't accept it. So I try to get Gin to reconsider, ask for something in exchange, and he ends up saying,
I want you to cradle me. I mean, I want you to pet me. Meow.
It's an odd request, but I choose to cradle him. Petting his neck was a weird option. And it leads to a nice scene, as while comforting him, Sarah hears Gin crying or trying not to. Remember, Gin is a grade schooler. He's the youngest person here, being forced to grapple with the threat of death, the mistrust of adults, and he has to go through all of this alone. He has to be strong and hide his turmoil. So the least we can do is try to just lessen his burden, or just help him wind down a bit. After that ends, I decide to take Gin's 10 me tokens, feeling that they're better in my hands because it prevents Gin from giving all 100 of his tokens to someone. At least spread them out. Sarah then recalls now, and realizing that it's been a few hours, decides to check in on her. Leaving someone alone while they are currently in a great state of mental duress with an AI chatbot is historically not a very good option, especially if that AI chatbot is impersonating someone they greatly care about. Arriving in the monitor room, Now is still talking with the AI professor, and she doesn't really notice Sarah, but as Sarah's about to leave because it's way too awkward to butt in, she overhears their conversation, with the AI telling Now to cherish the friends she has made, because while the situation is dire, they are working together. Hearing that, Now thanks the AI and says she won't come to speak to him again, recognizing that this is super crazy unhealthy. Bringing me to the afternoon, where immediately there's an altercation. Kyutaro is arguing with Rio Ranger, who gleefully reveals that the survivors are not allowed to return to the prior 2 floors, preventing us from accessing the laptop of Kai, denying us of its possible answers. It's a shame, but as Keiji elaborates, all we can really do is trust that in the end, Kai was on our side. After all, Sarah did hear him say that he entrusted his hopes in her. Yet we can't fully believe that he's on our side, as we do have proof that he is connected to the kidnappers who dragged all of us here. So Keiji theorizes that perhaps Kai betrayed the kidnappers. Or maybe Kai is like a victim. But what if Kai just had connections to the kidnappers? Like he was meant to carry out a few tasks in their stead. Maybe he's not a key figure and more of a grunt. And his final theory is that perhaps, along with Kai, there's another turncoat among the kidnappers who want to end the death game, and they are the one who Kai was colluding with. It's certainly the theory with most wishful thinking, but it's pretty baseless. Sarah then asks a follow-up question, asking if there's been anything in the past similar to this death game, and surprisingly enough, Keiji says yes. Decades ago, there was a battle among major crime rings, and to end the battle, the crime rings organized a death game that brought them all under a single monolith. The event was dubbed the Hades Incident, but shortly afterwards it collapsed because apparently the police did their job. Weird. I'll let you, the viewer, determine which part of that story was weird. From there, Sarah leaves to go and take on a few of the attractions, the second one being Spirit Shutter with Keiji as a partner. The minigame is simple. Touch the blue spirits and don't touch the red ones. When the red ones appear, hit a red button and scare them away. It's very easy. Netting Sarah 1 additional clear chip, bringing me to another round of negotiation. I can either do a roundtable discussion with Reiko and Now, or just talk to Kana, who isn't interested in trading. Apparently So's currently asleep, so she can only talk now. With that, I elect to spend time with Kana. Speaking with her, she says that she's felt like a burden to everyone the entire time she's been here. To which I ask if she regrets it, which of course she does. Kana, in the third person, because that's how she talks, says that Kana is a helpless person who can't stand on her own, while Sarah is akin to a warrior, like a samurai with a katana, which I mean, one of the game's main themes is called Samurai Women, so I understand. Kind of awkwardly, Sarah says that she was in the kendo club at school, and that just sets the tone for the rest of the conversation, as Sarah describes it as empty. She and Kana then just spend time talking about normal, fun things. For the first time in a while, things slow down and the tension is diminished. Time passes and Kana remarks that Sarah is just like her older sister, in both strength and kindness, though Kana's sister wasn't very kind when they first met. As it turns out, Kana is adopted. Coming from an orphanage, she always strived to smile in spite of anything negative, and that made her older sister Kuji hold a disdain for her. Try as Kana might, she couldn't smile in front of everything, because it just built up over time. So one day it became so unbearable that Kana ran away to a nearby park where she just sat with a bucket on her head, sobbing. A boy, a little older than Kana, who I believe was likely Joe, appeared, and seeing that the bucket head was crying, started trying to make her laugh, making funny noises and pulling his shirt up. But before Kana could react, Kuji, Kana's sister, appeared and, misinterpreting the scene, had admonished the boy for seemingly making fun of Kana and throwing a bucket on her head. That action led to Kana and her sister growing closer. With the memory in mind, Kana resolves to live and tell her parents what happened to Kuji. With that, Kana leaves as Gin appears, growling in pain after he and Keiji took on an attraction, and Keiji couldn't quite protect him, leaving the boy bleeding. Keiji remarks at her lack of medical attention, and on cue, Safalin the green doll appears, then leading us into the infirmary. Very convenient. Though as we go there, Keiji makes Safalin vow that she'll cause no harm to anyone. In the infirmary, Gin's wounds are treated by Sarah as she overhears Keiji telling Gin to hide something that Sarah can't be allowed to see. Hearing that, I have Sarah demand to see what it was, which was the wrong choice, as it turns out Gin had recovered Joe's little dog pin, and upon seeing that, Sarah's hallucinations get worse by exactly 30. Yeah, it's not great, and Sarah has a bit of a moment. But after that passes, eventually, and upon leaving the infirmary, Reiko appears and wants to show Sarah a secret something. Following Reiko to a mysterious set of stairs, where at the top of it lies a vending machine and the number 200. Through a thorough investigation, we come to the conclusion that the vending machine accepts tokens, and if 200 tokens are inserted, then something will likely happen. But the pair get a bad feeling and elect to leave it alone, with Sarah going to complete one more attraction, this time stay on target, and I partner with Alice. It's a game of just follow the thing with my mouse. It's very easy, and I get another clear chip for a total of 3. Following that, I am brought to negotiation, where I decide to trade some tokens with Kyutaro, and I hear him confirm that the escape prize by Rio Ranger is most likely a lie. There's nowhere to exchange a bunch of tokens for something like that. The conversation then peters out as Sarah is too exhausted to focus and decides to go to bed. But her sleep is interrupted as Gin awakens her, having heard a heavy noise come from the monitor room. Heading there, Sarah discovers that Professor Mishima has been slain yet again. His AI monitor has been destroyed. Naturally, we assume it to be so, but Khan has been with him the whole time, so it wasn't him. Keiji and Sarah then decide to leave the investigation till tomorrow. Both of them are far too tired. It's a shame, but investigation requires energy. One sleep later, and upon waking up, Sarah returns to the scene to find Keiji finishing up getting Reiko's side of what happened. As it currently stands, there's no concrete physical leads on what might have occurred. So Keiji's just trying to establish everyone's alibis for last night. He continues on, and before Sarah can join the investigation, Reiko pulls Sarah aside and drags her to that weird vending machine one more time, where on the side of the staircase, there's now a button that reads Secret Attraction. Obviously, I have Sarah immediately press the button, opening the door to the Room of Lies, which will award those who clear it with 6 clear chips. Doing some quick deductions and mathematics, Reiko realizes that with 9 attractions that give 2 clear chips each, it results in a maximum amount of 84 chips total. For everyone to survive, there needs to be 90 clear chips. Otherwise, multiple people will be short of the total, or one person will completely miss out, unable to gather the maximum number. With that realization, both Sarah and Reiko know they can't afford not to enter this room. At first, Reiko and Sarah try to rat out the best pairing to clear this, but ultimately they resolve to enter together. Reiko saying she wants to be strong like Sarah. And to cement that resolve, Reiko offers a handshake and Sarah obliges, but notices that Reiko's hand is bleeding. The liquid runs down Sarah's palm, and then Sarah notices that Reiko is covered in bruises. It's clear that she's been pushing herself to complete the attractions and earn the clear chips, likely doing more than her fair share to ensure that Yin and Now don't have to extend themselves. Entering the room, they find it to be dark aside from a single table that's been lit up to display 6 clear chips and a light-colored rope called the Web of Happiness, according to a note that also says it may save their lives in the final attraction. When Sarah and Reiko take the items, the lights shut off and Reiko screams, yelling at Sarah to escape, but Sarah reaches forward and takes her hand, running out of the room. But Reiko isn't with her. Instead, Sarah only has Reiko's glove. Panicked, Sarah yells and tries to open the door, finding it locked. But that was apparently unnecessary, as Reiko just walks out. She's scared and out of breath, saying that the dark freaks her out and asks that Sarah not tell anyone about it. Things settle down, but then Reiko asks what's the deal with the lies. Like, why is it called the Room of Lies if all they did was take the ropes and the chips? Sarah's best guess is that the presence of a non-existent lie is the lie. Next is the question on how to use the clear chips. Could the lie be that they're fake? I'm then prompted on if I should accept a chip or not, and I choose to take one. We did earn these after all, so... Actually, as Reiko hands the chips over, Sarah realizes that Reiko has 2 gloves on. What about the glove that Sarah yanked off earlier? What? Reiko says that nobody grabbed her hand, and brushes it off as a spare glove. Apparently Rio Ranger gave everyone a spare change of wardrobe in their rooms, but that doesn't explain how Sarah acquired the glove. Weird. Reiko then bids Sarah farewell as she's gonna hand over the rest of the chips to people who are struggling with completing the attractions. Left alone, Sarah decides to go and do another attraction, but I do stop by the infirmary to see if Keiji and Gin are still there. Unfortunately, there is absolutely nothing in this room. Totally, there is nothing in the room, it is empty. Very quickly leaving as I go and then do the fly swatter attraction with Kana. The game is exactly as it sounds. I click on the flies. They die. It's fairly easy, especially since I turned up the DPI on my mouse, netting Kana and I 1 more chip each. Negotiation happens, and it's not about tokens this time. Instead, I have the option of talking to So and Kana or talking to Now. So wants to talk in general, while Now wants to talk about how sus Reiko's been acting, and that seems more prevalent. So I speak to Now. And we get right to business on discussing how she's off. But then I'm given a choice of options that are quite similar. Either question the personality, personhood, or behavior of Reiko. I elect to choose her behavior and Now agrees, saying that Reiko feels colder. Sarah asks if it might have anything to do with the Room of Lies, but Now has no idea what that is. Apparently Reiko hasn't been sharing the clear chips we earned. The topic then shifts to Reiko's hand wound, which Now is also aware of, but she doesn't elaborate on the significance of it. The conversation concludes on the point that Reiko is clearly hiding something, or perhaps something happened in the Room of Lies. Once Now leaves, Kyutaro asks Sarah to go head over to the ruined corridor, which I immediately go to, finding that Kyutaro has found a hidden passage to a dark room with a computer, where Keiji lies in wait. There he explains that Kyutaro found Kai's laptop in this room. Somehow it's here instead of being confiscated on the floors prior. We don't know how, but now's not the time to question it. We need to crack the laptop's password and figure out what's on it, because the laptop is nearly out of battery and there's no charger anywhere. Quickly, Sarah tries to enter the password So told us, her family name Chidoan. but it's not accepted as Kai must have changed the password after he stole it back from So. Panicking, Keiji recommends that Sarah type in something only she would know, and Sarah types in the name of her father, after remembering that at one point he told her that their family has a hero in the shadows watching over them. With the laptop unlocked, the trio begins examining Kai's email history, where they find that So lied, partially. He had said that Kai's email revealed to him that Sarah was looking forward to the games and that he would oppose anyone who tried to harm Sarah. But the emails were in the wrong order, and So didn't get to see who those emails were responding to. This is the true context of the emails. Email number 1, both message and response. Hello? Hello? Did you know? Sarah's going to a board game meetup. Wonder if she's going alone. Papa's worried she might make some bad friends. Miss Sarah is looking forward to the games. Surely her friend will also take part. Kai, I never told you. When'd you find out? I swear, about the only time I have any idea what you're up to is when you're there at home replying from your computer. Oh well, keep up the guard work. Thank yous a million. Yeah, turns out that message about looking forward to the games was about a school event. And Sarah realizes that the ooh-woo cutie pie typer that Kai is messaging is her father, because her dad types in that exact same way. Email number 2, both message and response.
Kai, you betrayed us, betrayed the organization, betrayed me. It's about time. If any harm comes to Sarah Chidoan, I will stand against you as an enemy. Unforgivable. It's all come to nothing. Just try and struggle with your puny arms.
This second email clearly affirms that Kai was betraying the organization for the sake of Sarah, all to protect her for some reason. Email number 3, both message and response. Hello, hello. Feeling kinda in danger lately. Well, it's okay. It's Sarah they're after. She's being targeted. I'm attached to this house, but I guess I gotta discard it and run. Will you come with me, Kai?
I feel a deep affection for Miss Sarah as well. I will certainly protect her. I am prepared to offer myself up for the Chidoans.
Oh, Kai, you really are the greatest hero ever. Thank yous a million. Based on this third message, we can infer that Sarah's father isn't very concerned with the immediate danger Sarah's in, and he might have had a heads up that the death game was coming, feeling that it was fine because they're targeting her. For whatever reason, he thinks that Sarah will do just fine in a death game. It makes it sound like she's not that important to him. Email number 4, both message and response.
Are you the contact? You should know not to use this address. I'll hear the reports, but follow the rules from now on. As planned, 17 people have been secured. Just in case, is there no error on the date of the death game? Everything is proceeding smoothly. I see. You've done well on a most futile effort. Thought you could pretend to be my contact and disrupt things, Kai. You're at home right now, away from the Chidoan house, aren't you? I've got a tip for you. The phrase you just sent, X people have been secured, is the trigger that sets the plan into motion. You fell for the trap, Kai. Sarah Chidoan will be captured soon. Thank yous a million.
And that message was sent on the day of the kidnapping. Keiji breaks it down for the player and theorizes that perhaps the organization that kidnapped everyone was already monitoring Kai's emails, which is why his idea to try and disrupt them failed. The thank yous a million at the end might not mean that Sarah's dad is a kidnapper. Instead, it might be that the organization is taunting Kai, because they've been reading everything he sent. Add on to it how Kai was likely captured soon after when he ran to Sarah's house, falling into another trap. Because, as Sarah's father said in the first email, the only time where anyone knows where Kai is when he's on his laptop responding to emails. To this revelation, Sarah is beyond shocked that Kai wasn't a stalker. He was her protector. To which I say, both. Both statements can be true. Sarah never knew about the guy, aside from all the time she caught him watching her. Speaking of which, Sarah then recalls how she saw Kai on the night of the fateful kidnapping, remembering that he frantically yelled something out to her. Yelling, Don't go home. But at this point, it hardly matters. The laptop's battery is fully drained not long after, and there's no clues on a potential escape. But if we can find a charger, there might be more to glean from this device. Sarah decides that Kyutaro should hold on to it, and Keiji says the three of them should keep all this a secret. After all, if the kidnappers learn about this, then they lose the slight advantage they have. Returning to the common room, Kana speaks to Sarah and says that she found something in the ruined corridor. It's not the same room that Kyutaro found with the laptop. Instead, it's a dark hidden corridor, where the further the pair go, the darker it gets. Holding hands, Kana guides Sarah forward, and for a second mistakenly says sister instead of Sarah. But Sarah isn't sure of how to respond to it, and that unfortunately pulls on Kana's own wound. The pair then continue in silence, arriving at a door where beyond it lies one of the initial trap rooms. From the very start of the game, Sarah and Joe were restrained in beds just like this one, and unfortunately, Kana was too. As after getting scared from standing in the dark, she comes into the room and immediately screams. After all, Kana's sister Kuji was killed in a room just like this one, all because Kana wasn't able to figure out what to do to save her. Sarah tries to calm down Kana to the best of her ability, and then sends her to wait outside because, well, we don't want to look at trauma. Investigating on her own, Sarah then comes across a cell phone. Opening it up, she's greeted by an open notes app with the following message. You abandoned me, you awful sister. I hate you. Go die. Just die, Kana, you murderer. I'll curse you from hell. The message is so shocking that Sarah accidentally yelps and Kana quickly comes running in. Left with little time to react, I like to have Sarah try to change the message, but her hands are shaking too much, she fails. Okay, so I try to erase the message. She fails again. Left with little option, I try to turn the phone off, and again, Sarah fumbles. With no time left, Sarah chucks the phone back under the bed as Kana informs her that someone is coming. It's So and Alice. While Kana left me here, she left Alice in charge of watching So. The pair are here because they want to do a round table shuffle of me tokens and tell Sarah to scram since she wasn't invited. But Alice does inform Sarah that a ghost has been sighted in the infirmary, and they want Sarah to deal with it. Because Alice actually finds it so scary, he really can't focus on the attractions. I love the honesty, but hopefully it's a different ghost than the one I saw earlier. It's not, as in the infirmary, the only thing that's really ghost-like is the Joe, who upon interacting with sends Sarah down yet another spiral, being forced to recall Joe's expiration. Even hearing his voice blames Sarah for his death. But despite managing to refocus, the apparition doesn't vanish, it remains. In fact, when Sarah approaches the reflection, it only gets clearer. Turns out, it is Joe. Or at least, it bears his likeness. Pushing against the wall, Sarah finds it to be a window. And behind it is a mannequin built to look just like Joe. Safalin then appears, and I should mention that at this point, Sarah's hallucination percentage is at 90%. She will die if it goes to 100. I should be careful. Anyway, Safalin explains that the Joe-looking thing is yet another doll, much like the one of Kana we found in the prior floors, and much like both her and Rio Ranger, just that it's a one-to-one recreation of Joe's likeness. Apparently these dolls are one of the experiments conducted by the organization that captured everyone. Safalin then asks if Sarah would like to borrow the Joe doll for mental relief. That's one of the doll's purposes, being used to see a loved one again who is now gone. to talk to them, to feel them beside you. The dolls can even be infused with the AI chatbot personalities and make it seem like people are just back from the dead. Yet, Sarah refuses. Even when Safalin tries the manipulation route by saying that Sarah needs salvation, Sarah can live out her fantasies with this doll. She can face Joe's death directly, along with her part in it. Thankfully, before Safalin can present a more convincing argument, Keiji appears and tells the Clanker to can it. From here, Keiji asks if Sarah liked Joe. Liked him. Of which I choose to answer by affirming him to be Sarah's close friend, besties, a person who Sarah treasured regardless of words like love. And that reminds Sarah of an earlier conversation where Keiji had promised that he would tell Sarah about a person that he greatly cared about, but he would only do so after the main game ended. And oh, would you look at that, the main game ended in the last video, meaning that Keiji has to spill. And he explains that back in grade school, the person he treasured the most was a police officer, an awkward dude who dove into a river to fish out the kid Keiji's bike and then repaired it for him, which is what made Keiji want to be a police officer himself. Very cute, though things take on an ominous tone when Sarah asks if Keiji ever worked alongside that officer, and Keiji grows pale, becoming anxious at the question, dismissing it by saying there's lots of police in the world and he didn't get the chance. From here, Sarah wants to go and do some more attractions, but, well, my friend Dolly convinces me to try something else. I save and return to the medical office, finding Safalin, who offers a type of medical treatment that would allow Sarah to forget the traumas inflicted upon her and reduce the amount of hallucinations she's been seeing. I choose to accept it, and a few devices are attached to Sarah, before she's then administered a few shocks that start to erode away at the memory of Joe.
Oink! Oh, she's not there.
Looks like a few of the lights are out, but we can fix that later. Let's encourage
Sarah
to cheer up with a controlled shock.
Relieving Sarah of her trauma and reducing the hallucination meter back to 0. Safalin tells Sarah to be careful, because she's still susceptible to hallucinations, and that it's dangerous to use the machine twice, so we can't do it again. I think my friend Maya described this very eloquently as microdosing on lobotomies. However,
You wanna see me do it again?
resulting in the memory of Joe once again being washed away. But Sarah seems to endure the second round and is a lot more positive, so
Do it again.
However, this time, Safalin is very resistant to the idea, but Sarah cries and begs her to use the device one more time, which elicits a different kind of reaction from Safalin, who smiles and remarks,
Perhaps you've already long since been ruined.
She gains a crazy look in her eye and giggles, stating plainly that this will ruin Sarah's life, but they'll go ahead anyway, resulting in the memory of Joe being fully erased, leaving Sarah in a delirious state, begging for one more round. Yet this time, Safalin does not acquiesce. Instead, she makes a request, asking that Sarah do whatever she tells her to do, in exchange for another use of the machine. Sarah eagerly and quickly accepts, with Safalin making her devote her life to her, granting me my first bad end. By the way, Safalin, super hot in this ending, I'm not gonna lie, just look at the image, she's hot. But loading my save state to back before the treatment, I decided to refuse any and all treatment, despite the hallucination meter being at 90% and, well, one more killing her, but like, and yeah, even though my friends were telling me to do it, you have to understand, I don't believe in this new age treatment. After all, medicine is just like computers, it's a dying fad. So instead, Sarah hops and skips her way to the relaxation room and partakes in another attraction, though along the way, I do see Reiko, who seems to be lost in thought, musing about how long her body's been like this. No idea what she's on about. Partnering with So, I take on the quick draw attraction, which is all about reaction times. A picture appears and I gotta click on a matching image. Otherwise, Sarah will either get whacked, shot, or stabbed. I find this one very fun. it's made better by the fact that I get to see Sarah with a Glock. Also, I lose because So absolutely sabotages us. See, you actually get 2 tries at each of these minigames. The character you partner with gives you an ability, but that ability is only activated when Sarah goes down. Basically, you only get to use the ability on your second life. And So's ability is supposed to give me a premonition of what will pop up. But it doesn't work, and it just results in him getting killed in record time. Crazy. I also didn't know that these games each had unique death animations. That's kinda cool, as are all the enemy and monster designs. Anyway, I run it back without getting so involved and earned 1 whole clear chip. Yippee! Meaning now it's negotiation time. But like, I don't know what I chose as... Yeah, I did not record the next few minutes. And the next piece of usable footage is just of Sarah talking to Keiji, who's in the middle of having his own PTSD hallucinations, admitting that it's just the kind of guy he is, you know, he's quirky like that. Boys will be boys after all. I'm just so glad to not have the context. And I'm also really glad that Keiji admits that he can't even trust himself. He then leaves, allowing Gin to inform Sarah of a very distressed looking Now, who went off to the prize corner. Naturally, I'm worried, so Sarah goes after her, finding that Now has purchased a victim video, reasoning that the item might hold some kind of clue on how to escape, but she can't bring herself to watch it, finding the idea too terrible, which, given how she acted prior, only makes sense. So she begs Sarah to watch it with her, and that's how I also ended up buying a victim video. Specifically, number 3 and number 2. I regroup with Now in the monitor room and get to watching. Now's video contains a policewoman who was tied in crimson chains begging for her life, claiming that she was only doing her job, yet the police fall on deaf ears as a familiar mop of blonde hair, likely Keiji, steps into view, dryly stating that he can't move forward unless she dies. The woman pleads with Keiji to press a nearby button. Doing so would save her, but he elects not to, watching the policewoman expire. The video ends there, or Now stops the video there. Either way, she's a mess, not capable of handling how sick the video made her feel. And in complete contrast, the video doesn't seem to have bothered Sarah much. She immediately pressures Now to restart the video. She wants to confirm if the blonde person really is Keiji, but Now refuses and leaves, leaving Sarah to recoil in horror, as she now understands how accustomed to violence she's already become. Sarah goes to sleep and awakens on the morning of day 3. Yeah, day 2 happened. I really did forget to keep track of the passage of time. I'm sorry. First thing in the morning, I decide to watch the victim tapes I purchased and see if Now's hunch really is true. Will these things give us some kind of clue to escape, or give us a better understanding of the ordeal we're in? Video number 2 only presents a man being crushed to death. Likely this was his first trial, and he failed, preventing us from ever having met. Video number 3 is more unique, as it presents a woman on the edge of death suspended in the air, while Rio Ranger watches her, gleeful at her suffering, only for it to be cut short as the girl thanks Rio for ending her, stating that she wanted to die, and expiring shortly afterward with joy, causing Rio to lash out in rage as he then torments the corpse, leaving Sarah at a loss for words with her pondering why Rio is so angry, with the only possible answer coming to mind being jealousy. In a change of tone from that, Sarah then observes a childish war between Alice and Cephalon, with the prison dude refusing to eat his meal because it contains bitter melon. Thankfully, Sarah diffuses the situation by offering to eat the melon for Alice, which then results in Alice actually trying the melon and realizing just how tasty it actually is. Despite being a hardened prisoner, Alice is most assuredly a younger sibling. Sarah then ruins the pleasant chat by inquiring about Reiko, Alice's sister, asking if the pair have spoken, but Alice admits no, and there's no real need to, At first, he thought Reiko was different, but in the past day or so, he's been keeping an eye on her and is fairly confident that she's the same Reiko he knew before going to prison. Unexpectedly, Alice then asks Sarah how much she knows about Reiko, which Sarah admits isn't much. So Alice decides to clue her in on a bit by giving Sarah a magazine snippet that shows off Samurai Yabai, the band that Reiko used to be in. The magazine's headline is about Samurai Yabai's disbandment, because after a bandmate scandal caused strain, Reiko, the vocalist, felt she could no longer sing the band's songs. By the way, the scandal in question is murder. The murder that Alice committed, which clearly left a deep scar on Reiko, as murder tends to do. With that, Alice leaves and Sarah moves on to another attraction. Though as she's doing that, Keiji and Alice are having a shady conversation, one that Sarah isn't privy to. Anyway, my next attraction of choice is Runaway Minecart with Kyutaro, which is a reaction-based game with a lot of click mashing. It's actually pretty fun and reminds me of the Club Penguin Minecart game, and that gives me yet another clear chip. Afterwards, it's negotiation time, and my only option is Kyutaro. He looks rather stressed, and very curtly says he'll hand over 40 of his tokens in exchange for 10 of Sarah's. A very strange deal. His behavior is odd and he seems almost desperate and panicked, keeping his reasons as brisk as possible. And despite this, I accept the trade, giving him 10 tokens. He quickly leaves and runs off towards the staircase with the vending machine. Sarah decides to investigate, finding Kyutaro inserting countless tokens into the vending machine, because as Sarah puts it, he's thirsty. Thirsty for the air outside. He's traded 200 tokens and has purchased the exit ticket. He's going to escape at the cost of everyone, but in spite of that, he does briefly try to argue that he'll escape and scout out the route for everyone. But both he and Sarah know that's a lie. Even still, he tries to affirm that this is for everyone and he'll save all of us. But Sarah calls out his weakness, arguing that kids like Kana and Gin are trying their best to hang in there. But at the mention of kids, Kyutaro once again tries to use that to justify his actions, saying that he has a dream of becoming a pitcher, one that kids without parents will be able to look up to prove that even orphans can make their dreams come true. With that, he then inserts the last coin and summons Rio Ranger, who reveals that yes, Kyutaro will escape, and everyone who remains will be condemned to death. Kyutaro is horrified, saying that this wasn't mentioned till before. He already put in the tokens, it's unfair. He couldn't possibly do that to everyone. Yeah, guess it's not fair, huh? Gotcha. I'll pay him back, just for you. All the tokens you used. Great, right? Good for you. You don't have to kill your allies. Huh? What's the matter? Stop now and I'll give back the tokens, okay? No, don't tell me. You're gonna sacrifice them just to save yourself? What? How scary. Sarah begs Kyutaro to stop. They can all escape. Kai's sacrifice can't have been for nothing. Gin and Kana have parents who are waiting for them. But it falls on deaf ears as Kyutaro already made up his mind. Sarah becomes catatonic as she watches Kyutaro escape, leaving everyone behind. And all of them would shortly expire. Rewinding time, I refuse Kyutaro's request, causing Rio Ranger to appear for what he calls a parent-teacher conference. Basically, a check-in. He approves of my purchase of the victim tapes, but finds it strange that I haven't bought any player info. Regardless, as thanks for playing along with my me tokens, he decides to answer a few of Sarah's questions. I get some options and inquire about the AIs, learning that they are reproductions of the players, made by backing up their memories every 6-ish months to ensure that they are as close to the current living person as possible. although personality is more complex and time-consuming, as they can only back that up every 3 years, while in contrast, memories, if needed, can be updated within a day. However, trying to impart the memories of death onto the AI causes them to bug out or react oddly. And that's all the info I'm getting, as he leaves, bringing me to noon, day 3. Also, my recording was sobbing and screaming during that short interaction. It got better though. And thank goodness for that, because it's time for another attraction. Possibly my favorite. A game of hide and seek. Which is really more of a game of anticipation, because I have to click on a few objects which will make Sarah vulnerable to being attacked. Meaning, I have to anticipate when to hide and when to lever it up. I think there's a subtle sound cue that's supposed to let me know when enemies will appear, but since I was in a Discord call with my friends, I couldn't quite lock in. Instead, I cooked up a different strat. If you notice, when I complete a lever, another monster is added. So what if I just complete all the levers at once? It's a very tense game, and I'm able to eventually just barely eke out the W, completing the last lever just mere frames before Sarah would have been bested, granting her yet another clear chip, allowing me to walk into another trap, as instead of negotiation time, Sarah is greeted by the 3 deceased, Kai, Joe, and Professor Mishima. Thankfully, they don't talk to me, but I do elect to go to hell, which is once again only a dream, as Sarah is then awoken by Gin. She had experienced yet another hallucination, but Gin quickly leaves to get Sarah some water, prompting another manifestation of Joe to appear, asking when Sarah plans to join him in hell. I tell him that it'll have to wait, but Joe coldly retorts with a question, asking if Sarah really intends to live. After all, to survive, she'll have to ensure the deaths of so many others. Before she can dwell on those thoughts, Gin appears and shakes Sarah out of it, managing to convince her to just rest for a while. After all, she can trust in the others to ensure the clear tokens are collected. She doesn't have to do everything, ending the afternoon and bringing me to day 3 night. As Sarah awakens, she resolves to find more clear tokens, and I take the chance to look at her hallucination meter. 110%. That might not look very healthy, but I'm sure it's not a big deal. Probably. Anyway, I mosey on over to the ruined corridor and find a remorseful Kyutaro who... Remember a few minutes ago when I said there was a period of time in which I forgot to record? Yeah, Kyutaro clues me in on what happened. You see, in that intermission, he had given the laptop to So and Kana because of the allure of escape. So had Kana informed Kyutaro that if he gathered enough tokens, he could purchase an escape ticket from the vending machine. But now, those two have vanished, and with nothing to do, I begin yet another attraction. Memory Dance. One of the hardest in the entire game. Memory Dance is all about memorizing dances. These dance moves are fast, but it's the final enemy who is by far the most brutal battle this game has to offer. Here's a little clip. It was rough, but thanks to a combination of luck, my buddy Dolly having a good memory for once, or my natural talents, I was able to overcome it on my first try. But oh my goodness, that was awful. I have to memorize those things and then, no, I have to interpret the actions, some of which being just body and not down or up, and then mimic it. It was awful. But hey, Sarah gained 2 clear chips, which are very well deserved. That was... oh. Huh. Because of that, Sarah now has 11 clear chips, when she only needs 10 to ensure her survival. Negotiation time swings around, and this time it's just Rio Ranger who has come to make an announcement. We're stinky. Yeah, he just wants everyone to take a bath. That's literally it. Everyone is naturally a bit turned off by it, but, well, we might as well, right? Baths are cool. Plus, as Kana brings up, refusing to cooperate typically ends with people being killed, so it's a bath time. Insert obligatory group bath scene of the girls, and then Sarah is given the opportunity to do something devious, to become the male anime protag. And listening to the devils on my shoulder, I have Sarah accept as she peeps on the guys who, in contrast to the girls having a delightful chat, are currently in the midst of a manhood off. Sarah proceeds to pretend she saw nothing, and the day comes to an end as Sarah goes to bed. But it can never be so easy as Sarah awakens at night, seeing Smiley lurking around her room. But Sarah can't move her body and falls back asleep, awakening to find 4 papers waiting in a nearby chair. It's a list of names with an associated occupation and percentage. There's a few familiar names on here, like Sarah, who has the highest percentage at 15.5%, and Keiji, who's listed as an ex-detective. There's also names of people who Sarah has never met, like a Naomichi, a boxer. Could that have been the angry man in the first victim video? Then there's Megumi Sasahara, a police officer, who was certainly that woman in Nao's victim video. Weirdly enough, Joe, Kai, and Nao aren't on the list, and neither is So, or maybe So is on the list. There's this name, Shin Tsukimi, who is described as self-employed, which is how So described his state of employment. And So is the guy who lies like a lot, and lying about his name isn't out of the question. And as a Megami Tensei guy, I know that the word Shin means true, or truth, so his real name being True would be kind of ironic. But what's the deal with the percentages, and why does Shin have a 0.0% chance while Sarah has a staggering 15.5. Is it odds of survival? Like if you're making a bet? And as Sarah tries to understand this, she recalls the list that Geen had found earlier. It was somewhat similar, but why would this be left here? It has to be some kind of trap, Sarah reasons. It must be something to ensure the group stops cooperating. And for that reason, Sarah opts to ignore these developments. At least for now. From there, she runs out to greet everyone, and it's confirmed that despite me, Sarah, getting an extra clear chip, everyone was able to acquire the 10 clear chips. Much to the annoyance of Rio Ranger, who wanted at least one person to die, though the main game won't start just yet, as there's one more thing to do. Following Rio, everyone steps into a new room with some confidence as, well, the sub-game is over. No one's in any danger, or, well, no one should be in any danger, right? Ha ha ha! No, that statement is incredibly false. According to Rio Ranger, the sub-game isn't over yet, as the person who received the most Me tokens will be granted a very special privilege. And wouldn't you know, that person just so happens to be Hyutaro. He almost had 200 tokens after all. And his reward? You'll have to wait, as Rio announces the 4 runner-ups. Alice, Kana, So, and Keiji. While the bottom 3 are Sarah, Reiko, and Nao, while Geen came in absolute last place. Because if you remember from a while ago, Geen didn't trade for any tokens, he just gave his away for nothing in return. With all that info, the cast is then split up into various groups on a stage, and when everyone is still, Hyutaro and Geen are strung up, just like Wolverine. While the runner-ups are sealed in a box. Meanwhile, Sarah, Reiko, and Nao are then raised high into the air, as their part of the platform rises to what Rio calls the impression room. All of this is done in service of the final attraction, the arbitration room. The rules are as follows. Gin and Kyutaro are tied back to back on a target. Soon a timer will begin, and when the timer ends, a venomous stinger will be fired directly into Gin. The poison is particularly nasty, as it's scorpion venom, and it will ensure that Gin dies a painful death. Sarah and Gin point out how unfair this is. They all collected the clear chips. It should be impossible for anyone to die. After all, this is the first they've heard of this game. The whole cast starts clamoring about it being just an execution, to which Ryo darkly laughs, saying that Kyutaro has a button that will allow him to swap places with Gin and spare the boy. That's his privilege. The option to become a sacrifice for Gin. Gin starts begging for Kyutaro to save him, and Kyutaro can't respond, his face darkening in fear. Meanwhile, Sarah, Nao, and Reiko start looking for anything they can do. Modders on the now raised platform have come to life, so it has to be for some reason. After all, as Sarah points out, it's the final attraction, and the attractions are made to be beaten. They begin to investigate as Gin's clock ticks down. They start discussing it being unclear how they can even help Gin from being so far away, with even Reiko losing heart, which just sells how hopeless it seems. After all, she's always been the last person to give up, if ever. Bringing it back to the debate gameplay style from the end of Chapter 1, navigating this menu I have to investigate and bring up my findings to Reiko and Nao, while having lost the ability to communicate with the rest of the cast, and each wrong move results in time being lost. Truthfully, I completely fumble this early portion, because just like the prior video, I had a lot of difficulty navigating the menu. It had been over 3 months since last playing the game, so I was a bit washed. The first thing Sarah does though is get Nao and Reiko to refocus and cause the two to try and understand what the screens are, and they realize that neither of them are a timer. The one on the left is just flashing numbers, while the one on the right just says 35.5 left, no countdown, and no unit of measurement. A few theories are thrown around, including the idea that 35.5 might be referring to Nao's hair and they just need to hack off 35.5 centimeters, which, humorously, Nao agrees to do so without a second thought. Love the passion, but it likely isn't that. Instead, the number is referring to weight. After all, this is the impression room, you know? Plus, Gin then confirms he weighs 35.5 kg. And since it says left, we can only assume that we need to somehow increase the weight by 35.5 kg. Reiko recommends we jump up superstar. I mean, jump up and down like monkeys on the bed. Not, off the edge. However, when everyone starts jumping, the numbers on the display do not change, meaning the platform the girls are on isn't the display. There's another location where the weight needs to be increased. Things are looking dire, and Reiko starts to feel as though all of this is pointless. So she jumps again to further demonstrate, only to then hear a thump. Quickly, the girls check the floor beneath them and find a removable tile that reveals beneath the girls is a spike trap. And on the back of the tile we removed is the words "to rescue." Just then, a piece of the tile then falls onto the spikes and the number changes. 35.5 left turns into 35.3. To save Gin, 35.3 kg of weight needs to fall onto the spikes. Now I realize that the purpose of them being so high, like Kyutaro, to save Gin, it will require a sacrifice. It'll require throwing oneself off to the spikes below, and Nao is willing to make that sacrifice, especially when time is running out. Ryo even twists the knife further by saying that we should consider ourselves lucky, because only one person has to fall. The falling clarifies that if Kyutaro had been in last place, the required weight would have been around 200 kg, which would have required all three girls to descend. And it's that word choice that reminds Sarah of something, but it's then overtaken by Ryo's gloating and condemnation that we all died to save Gin, with him even saying that if it were Professor Mishima in Gin's shoes, then Nao wouldn't hesitate to push someone into the pit. At our despair, Keiji then yells out, telling Ryo to can it and reminding the girls of what was said at the start of the sub-game. Should everyone do well, then nobody would have to die. After all, if somebody has to die to save someone, then it would violate the rules. And as has been shown in this game, rules are not made to be broken! And Sarah decides to whip it out. The web of happiness, that rope we acquired from the Room of Lies. It's a thin wire rope that should make it possible to just... At the slightest bit of force, the web of happiness breaks. Much to the surprise of everyone, including Safalin, but not including Rio, who laughs, having hoped that the girls would have been skewered. Despair is at its highest, and then I'm given a choice of who to sacrifice. It weighs on me, but I elect to sacrifice Sarah, who seemingly makes peace with it, and is somewhat grateful for an end to the pain. But the memory of Joe urges her to live, and it motivates Sarah to keep looking for a way to save Geen. Yet, Reiko disagrees, having decided that it's over. She's giving up. There's no way to save Geen. He's a lost cause, and that doesn't sound right. The Reiko that Sarah knows, the Reiko that now knows, would never say something like that. In fact, Reiko used to be so full of affection and smiles, but lately Reiko's been so closed off. In fact, now has an idea for when Reiko changed, revealing that she knows who destroyed the Professor Mishima AI. It was Reiko, and now witnessed it. A statement that Reiko completely rebukes, stating that she has no memory of it. Now continues despite Kana yelling at us to quit this line of thinking, stating that she heard the shattering of Mishima's monitor, and then saw Reiko leave the monitor room with a bloody hand covered in glass. Which is further corroborated by Keiji, who confirms that Reiko destroyed the AI Mishima. But there's no time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time runs out, and the poison is injected into Geen. Kyutaro couldn't bring himself to save Geen. But it's not over yet. As Ryu explains, the poison isn't enough to kill a person. Not one dosage, because more will be fired into Geen as time goes on, though 5 is the maximum amount required to kill a grown adult. The question now is, how much can the small child withstand? With time still on her side, the discussion about Reiko continues, and dear viewer, can you at this point figure out what's going on? And how can we save Geen without letting any of our friends die? If so, let me know in the comments. Cause my friends and I did, and that made the next 40 minutes incredibly painful. Continuing the discussion, Keiji confirms that Reiko destroyed the monitor. Much to Reiko's shock, Keiji was hiding in the prize exchange and heard a conversation between Reiko and the AI professor. One that ended with the AI asking to be destroyed as to not inflict any more emotional duress on Now, though the AI does admit it's afraid to die, momentarily marveling at the fact that his creators even programmed that fear into him. Reiko, despite feeling conflicted, then carries out the request, but couldn't bring herself to tell Now. Returning to the present, Now apologizes to Reiko, saying she's sorry for suspecting her. Reiko must have been under so much stress and... Keiji, Now, what the hell are you guys talking about? That's right, Reiko denies all of it and even goes as far as to remove her gloves to prove there's no cuts on her. And yeah, it's squeaky clean. No scars whatsoever despite Now having seen shards of glass stuck in her hand. Shocking everyone, Reiko goes on to ask if the others were perhaps seeing a fake, which So seems to agree with, reasoning that heavy wounds like that just wouldn't close up. So the Reiko in the monitor room must have been a fake. The discussion is then split between the entire cast as Sarah has to hear the people out for their theories. But once again, it's So who seems to be on the right track, as he concludes that someone must have been impersonating Reiko in the monitor room, giving me the ability to choose someone. But my counsel and I choose incorrectly, as So reasons that it has to have been someone who wears gloves. Then I talk to Kana and she mentions that somebody would have had to have snuck into Reiko's room to steal her clothes, and then dress up as her, which reminds Sarah of a certain dress-up doll. And I really run down the clock because my friends and I agree that it's very unclear what we're supposed to do because, well, we were already at the final conclusion, and as we scrambled just trying to figure things out by doing random things, time ran out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another dosage of poison was fired, and Gin was again injected, while Kyutaro couldn't bring himself to act. But just like before, Keiji sprinkles in some more hope, claiming that the medical office has an antidote for the scorpion poison. If we can end this attraction, there's still a chance to save Gin. So we get back to it and fumble around for like 10 more minutes. Turns out you have to tell So that Griot wears gloves and could impersonate Reiko, which we then store and apply to Kana, allowing us to create the theory that Rio pretended to be Reiko to destroy the AI professor. But that is soundly rejected, as Rio confirms that the Reiko who destroyed the AI was in fact the real deal. After all, Rio would never wear the clothes of the living, raising more questions about the current Reiko, which my friends and I thought was already confirmed. Thankfully, Keiji comes in clutch as he realizes the floor masters aren't able to lie about important things, and reasons that Rio is hiding something, because he specifically said that Reiko was the real deal, implying the existence of more than one Reikos, instead of saying there was no fake. He then offers Rio the chance to state that there is no fake, but Rio doesn't answer, the silence then confirming the existence of a fake Reiko. Keiji then holds Sarah's hand as he explains that the Reiko with the hand injury is the real deal, so it must mean the Reiko without the hand injury,
I found you, faker!
Accusing Reiko of being a fake. Sarah demands proof, demands that Reiko prove who she is, and Alice speaks up, defending his sister and saying that the only proof Reiko needs is that her brother can confirm who she is. Alice then argues that Keiji is falling for Rio's trick, that Reiko from the incident was real, and the current Reiko can also be real. They are one and the same. Rio is just trying to get someone killed. Alice argues that he can identify Reiko, he's known her for 20 years and couldn't mistake her for anyone else. But the glass, the blood, we can't ignore that. And again, now argues that Reiko must be a fake, because otherwise, this entire game is being done without any chance for survival. With that reasoning, now affirms that we need to push Reiko onto the spikes. A statement so cruel it gives Sarah a reason for pause. Kana and So then try to figure out if there was ever a point where Reiko could be replaced. Any points where she was alone and away from sight, and okay, it's the room of fucking lies. Sarah, come on. Yeah, it turns out Sarah forgot.
While Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Like, actually forgot about the Room of Lies. Upon presenting the Web of Trust to So, Sarah admits that she had forgotten after she picked up the rope. The lights went out and Sarah heard the sounds of a struggle, and when she left the room, she was holding a bloody Reiko glove. And Reiko didn't come out till later, so for a short time, Reiko was in the Room of Lies, alone. And the Reiko who exited the room had 2 gloves and... oh my... yeah, it's very clear what happens. The current Reiko is a fake who replaced the original and is here for the sole reason of making us conflicted towards saving Gin. It's the Room of Impressions. The fake is giving us a Reiko impression. Then, after hearing these arguments, the fake tries to defend herself, asking what is she? If she's a fake Reiko, how's that supposed to make sense? Who is she?
You are a toy!
Again, the cast is conflicted and Kana asks if there's a hidden person on the floor, but Rio says he has no obligation to answer. Thankfully, Safalin chimes in, stating, "No human you haven't met will be making an appearance." Meaning that no person has replaced Reiko. Or if it is, then... okay, I am not entertaining this. It's a doll. It's so obviously a doll. They brought up all of the advanced AI biz, showed us the fake Joe, the Kana doll. The Fallen even said the dolls can be injected with memories that make them act like the person. Rio said the AI copies are backed up every 6 months with their personality stuff, and that would explain the earlier weird moments where Alice said he thought Reiko was different. But she's still the same Reiko he's always known, which makes sense because Reiko would have changed after her brother went to prison, and it's so painfully obvious. It's a doll. It pisses me off. Oh my god. Reiko then tries to argue that Sarah could have been replaced, but it's a dumb point because Sarah hasn't been acting out of character. A point only proven further as Reiko starts to devolve into emotional manipulation. Now, while playing the game, I was fully locked out by this point because I was so very annoyed at the mystery. But here, while writing, I can admire the personality of this fake. The desperation to live and the fact that it shows just how far Reiko's grown from her past self. The phrase, "I can't believe you would choose Gin over me. I trusted you." That's crazy. The real Reiko would never say that. But at this point, with Alice occasionally yelling, everything's devolved into emotional warfare. So Sarah challenges Reiko to a battle of logic, a back and forth, a chance for the faker to convince everyone that they are the real deal. Beginning a non-stop debate. The fake says they've been with Alice their entire life, but that's false. Alice has been in prison for 2.5 years. That's time for people to change. Only Alice is convinced that Reiko hasn't changed. The fake says she and Sarah split everything in the Room of Lies equally, but that's false. Reiko took most of the clear chips and only gave Sarah one. That greed ain't Reiko. The fake says the monitor isn't important, but it clearly is. The argument goes in circles until Sarah realizes something. An AI isn't human. And from there, after an annoying 5 minutes, Sarah puts the circle shape into the square hole and finally realizes that this Reiko is not human. It's an advanced AI in a doll. It's a conclusion that seems outlandish to everyone, but Keiji's on board and slowly everyone else is able to agree as well, realizing that the entire situation is crazy and the rules of logic don't apply. But also, there are literally 2 advanced AI dolls in the room, Rio and Safalin, and we saw the professor, so this really isn't a tough pill to swallow. The world keeps crashing around Reiko as she begs and pleads for a way to prove that she's the real deal, and Sarah decides to lay a trap, asking Reiko to sing, because, well, an AI could never replicate the music and emotion of a person. AI music could never, and I will stand on that hill. The faker sings her heart out, singing one of Samurai Yabai's greatest hits, filling it with her desperation and hope to survive. But as I said, this was a trap. Yeah, the real Reiko would never sing that song. Gotcha! This is it!
Yeah, you know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's about to...
Hey guys, we're back.
He's about to join the war on sister murder on the side of sister murder, yeah! Then presenting the magazine scrap that details how Reiko had solemnly refused to ever sing any of the songs in her band because of how sad they make her feel. And it tracks with everything we've seen of Reiko, where she always quietly refrained from mentioning her band's biggest hits. So this is the final nail in the coffin, as it's abundantly clear this isn't the real Reiko. Even Alice admits that the real Reiko would never sing a song from Samurai Yabai, not after his actions stained the band's memory. The personality is refreshed every 3 years, while memories are refreshed every 3 to 6 months, meaning that this Reiko's personality is from before Alice was arrested, at which point the faker starts spiraling, repeating and muttering to itself that it has to be real. There's no way they can be fake, exclaiming with tears in their eyes that they are alive. Their memories, their pain, their trauma, all of it feels real, which is finally confirmed by Rio, who plainly states, "Yep, you're fake." explaining that this Reiko is the purpose of the Room of Lies, and it wasn't made to deceive everyone. Instead, it was made to fully believe that it's Reiko. And Rio proceeds to go over everything I just explained.
First up, you bastards recent raid. It was the real raid guy. Oh my god. Just push her down the hole already, but we've done this enough time.
We know. I'm sorry, we don't need a recap. We know.
Oh my god.
Again, it feels like I'm being expositioned over and over.
Immediately, Alice is enraged and is demanding to know where the real Reiko is, which Rio takes as an opportunity to taunt us again by saying how bad it must be to be the fake, since Alice has already stopped caring about her. And yeah, that makes sense, because the person he actually cares about could be in actual danger. This robot means literally nothing to us, so it's clear what comes next. And it's pretty awful since the faker is begging for its life, screaming that it doesn't want to die. So even digs the knife in further by stating that since she can cry, she's practically human, and at this point the faker starts screaming for the others to help them, and yeah, nobody feels too great about this.
It doesn't feel good. Why she would have cried too? He's basically human at this point. So shut the hell up! So shut up!
Yeah, you know, I really thought like killing someone would feel good, but it doesn't. Like, who would have thought? Yes, no shit, so.
She has a heart. Connor, shut the hell up, Connor, please!
Quick question. Can we ask Ranger if she's afraid of death? Or he, what's his face?
I think she is afraid of death considering how she doesn't want to die.
I'm then given a choice as Sarah's Tomodachi hands appear and make the decision in 0.2 seconds. I cannot stress enough how much I did not care for this faker. In the moment, I did not feel bad, and it was purely because of how annoyed my friends and I were at the drawn-out nature of this obvious reveal. The choice is a no-brainer. Like, this ain't Reiko. I want Reiko back, and I'm not about to sacrifice Gin. Besides, I can't count on Kyutaro to make a sacrifice, so saving Gin is what matters here. With each push, the faker nears the edge, screaming for Sarah to stop, to remember their friendship, and at the last push, now chimes in, lunging and sending the faker over the edge. Having done so to lessen the burden on Sarah, one less trauma on Sarah's ailing mental health. Very appreciated. At the same time, Gin and Kyutaro's restraints are unlatched and they fall to the ground. Quickly, Keiji and the others run to grab the antidote, which, humorously, as my friend points out, hurry, get the antidote, we just need to get the, hang on, King, just get the antidote, up.
Wait, pause for a second. Someone's running to get the antidote. One of you pick up the kid and run to the room. Don't go.
No! There is no fast way to this. Keiji's got this. Trust. Listen, Maya, I, as Sarah Chidon, do not believe in ambulances. It's just like technology. It's a dying fad. They never work. They don't save lives. Trust in Keiji's legs, okay? Sarah looks down at the now deceased faker. It's pretty lifelike how the spikes penetrated her, but there's no blood. It was indeed a fake, much to Alice's relief, and now we need to find the real Reiko. Rio and Sapon have vanished, but Alice reasons that Reiko must be in the Room of Lies and takes off running, with Now and Sarah in pursuit after the impression room sinks back down to ground level. In the Room of Lies, Alice arrives first and is met by Rio, who instead of revealing Reiko, offers a question, asking what's the current status of Reiko. Acceptable answers are: Number 1, long dead. Number 2, dead from a trap in this room. Or number 3, watching over everyone as a severed head. Pick one. Alice refuses, claiming Reiko wouldn't die so easily. He won't accept it, only to be met by the appearance of Safalin, who carried Reiko's severed head. At that sight, I felt sick to my stomach. Everything had been for nothing. This feeling of disbelief is exactly what Alice felt, but times 100, starting with confusion and shock. But that sensation evolved as, in a raw rage, Alice charged Rio, prepared to beat him to death with his bare hands. Yet Rio had hoped for that, as he then nonchalantly tossed Reiko's severed head into Alice's hands. It was a bomb. It was a fake. In an instant, Alice's stomach was gone. You could see right through him. A second passes, and he's dead. His last words being, Reiko. Sarah can't even react. She doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She can only wonder, why? Why is this senseless cruelty happening? And senseless perfectly describes the scene as Reiko approaches. The real Reiko. She's inconsolable. Her brother is dead. And in his last moments, Alice thought the same of Reiko. Alice's last moments were of complete and utter despair. Again, Rio relishes in the cruelty, saying it's all Alice's fault. The answer to his earlier question was that Reiko is alive. And alive! It's the room of lies after all. But that's unfair. It's wrong. And it pisses Reiko off. Much like her brother, Reiko declares her intention to kill Rio. And Rio matter-of-factly states that if Reiko kills a floor master like him, then everyone will die. But Reiko doesn't care, as in a raw rage, Reiko charged Rio, prepared to beat him to death with her bare hands. It was a gunshot. There was a hole in Rio's head, and he fell to a bullet fired by the reception doll, a character I haven't mentioned because why would I? He's just background scenery in the prize exchange room, and now he's killed Rio Ranger for stepping out of line, which Rio can't comprehend. Merely asking, Dad, why? Asking for his father to fix him, asking why he isn't doing so already. Does he hate him? Rio claims to be his father's masterpiece, but the receptionist has no intention of doing so, and instead responds with a question.
Why do you think you were the most human of the dolls I created?
Because you put your affection into me the most.
Wrong. It was jealousy. I implanted in your emotion program an excessive sense of inferiority toward and hatred of humans. Humans have it nice. I envy humans. What's so great about humans, and so on. With that complex you could never overcome, you burned with deep jealousy and truly qualified as human. This convinced me that it is negative emotions that make a human.
That's...
Yet for the burning flames of jealousy to turn one into monster, that is just as human. You are an impediment to the plan, a failure.
And with a kick, he knocks Rio's head off before turning back to Sarah and inviting her into the main game. The various roles of this game have already been sent to everyone's tablets, with one added rule. There's a trading function now, and you can forcibly swap roles, but only by exchanging need tokens that have been acquired. And the doll ends his preamble with an introduction. He is Gashu Satao. As the chapter draws to a close, we get one more scene. One of Kyutaro apologizing to Gin. But it doesn't seem to wear too much on the kid, who simply calls Kyutaro a big chicken. Paving the way for Chapter 2, Part 2, coming 2028. I don't know when I'll get the next part out, because as you can tell, this one got kind of long. And, well, it's long because I wanted you, the viewer, to understand the frustration I felt in the impression room with the fake Reiko, and so you really did need all the context I beat you over the head with. Now, months after this happened, I can understand why it's supposed to be an impactful choice, but dog, I was so locked out. I really didn't comprehend it as a game-defining decision, because, well, fun fact, if I had decided not to push the fake Reiko, then it actually would have survived and would have gone on to kill the real Reiko. Meaning, yeah, this is the first big route split in the game. Either continue on with Alice or continue with Reiko. It's pretty impactful. But if I were not making this video, I would not have known, as I only discovered this during the editing process. Because I went on the Your Turn to Die wiki to get some images and saw the route split. But, as for my thoughts, I did really like this chapter. I think it does a good job at characterizing people. Yutaro especially got a lot. I adore how flawed he is, because in the moments, who knows what kind of choices people will make. But there's also a deep tragedy with Reiko here, because from what I've seen of the next chapter, oh yeah, no matter how this chapter played out, the Reiko I knew is no more. Now the Reiko in the next chapter is filled with SMT vengeance. Plus, also, the attractions were really super fun. It's the nice little minigames to break up the game's dialogue, and all of them are pretty unique with striking visuals. Honestly, with the designs I saw here, I can only froth at the mouth thinking about what kind of turn-based RPG the game's creator could make. Plus, the mysteries are only adding up, like, what's the deal with Kai and now Sarah's dad? Is he involved? What does he know, and what about So? He took up an antagonistic role at the end of the first chapter, but now he's basically on standby. What's this freak gonna do next chapter? Also, what's the deal with all the secret rooms? How would that be there? Shouldn't the kidnappers know about them, or do they already know about them? Then there's like also Safalin's hidden motives, because she was actually super helpful throughout the chapter. Like, offering the microdosing of lobotomies was technically a kindness. But there's also the impression room, where in that she did steer the conversation back to the room of lies. And then she opposed Rio on a few occasions, and at the end she kinda just stood there while Rio got. Which ain't even mentioning how she left the occupation papers in Sarah's room that reveals Keiji to not be a detective. Hiya, editing Zamen here. Yeah, I got the name wrong. That wasn't Safalin, that was Sumili who was in the room. Sorry, but continue on, past me. He's an X1, which, truthfully, I had been suspecting that because, like, if Keiji was a real cop, I'd imagine he'd have, like, an ID or a badge on him. He's also very super sketchy, but he's Sarah's #1 supporter, so I can forgive him. Even if he may be a cold-blooded murderer, as I saw with that officer he most definitely killed. I'm sure he had a good reason, but yeah, I think that about sums up my thoughts on this chapter. I have said in great detail my gripes with the fake Reiko plot beats, but outside of the moment, it is a good plot point and everything for it was well set up. The execution of it is a bit dreadful, slow and painful. It did not need to drag out like that, but the final struggle against the faker was pretty pain. In like a good way, especially that big push, because even in the moments that was kinda harrowing, it did feel messed up. It still feels messed up. It definitely was messed up. Regardless, I really hope you enjoyed the video and would consider liking and subscribing, because this video did in fact require a lot of effort, like a bit.